This is what happens when narcissists face separation, divorce, and abandonment. Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to our platform. Today, we embark on an exploration of the intricate dynamics of narcissistic behavior, particularly in the aftermath of relationship breakdowns and instances of abandonment. Through this engaging discussion, we aim to dissect the various defense mechanisms and coping strategies that narcissists employ during these challenging periods, shedding light on the complexities of their experiences. When a narcissist undergoes a divorce or breakup from a significant relationship, it represents a profound upheaval in their life, often resulting in a deep narcissistic wound. In an attempt to find comfort and mend their wounded pride, narcissists often construct elaborate narratives filled with falsehoods, distortions, and selective truths. These narratives serve as a shield against the harsh realities they face. It's noteworthy that all narcissistic individuals rely on a range of defense mechanisms, including denial, intellectualization, compartmentalization, projection, projective identification, and of course, narcissism itself. However, certain narcissists take their self-protection to an even further extreme. Rather than confronting their own flaws and limitations, they retreat into a world of self-delusion as a means of compensation. By disconnecting partially from reality, they create a space where they can avoid facing their shortcomings. One such coping mechanism is masochistic avoidance, where the narcissist directs their anger and self-punishment inward, effectively turning those closest to them into unwitting participants in their drama. This behavior compels others to provide the narcissist with the attention and validation they desperately seek. This form of self-punishment often appears as self-handicapping masochism, a tactic to avoid responsibility by undermining one's own endeavors, relationships, and professional life. After a divorce, a narcissist's choices often mirror their deep-seated anxieties and coping mechanisms. They become ensnared in a destructive cycle, drawing others into their chaotic and confusing world. Avoiding attention, stress, criticism, and disapproval, forms of negative reinforcement, the narcissistic abuser's emotional stability remains fragile. They use their self-induced failures as a tool, a confirmation of their belief that they control their fate. In their distorted mindset, they opt for failure. These masochistic abusers possess a unique ability to place themselves in situations intended to sabotage success. Milan suggested that impartially evaluating their performance is highly improbable. Their behavior shows a pattern of caution, withdrawal during crucial moments, ongoing fatigue, boredom, or disinterest, leading to turmoil in their lives. Through this passive-aggressive approach, their suffering reinforces their perceived superiority as they resist capitulation. Public expressions of self-pity and dissatisfaction serve as a shield, protecting their self-esteem from feelings of inadequacy. Reflecting Milan's observations, narcissistic abusers interpret their challenges and suffering as proof of their exceptional nature. They perceive themselves as significant, resilient, morally upright, virtuous, and almost saintly. Their suffering becomes a source of self-generated narcissistic energy. Paradoxically, the more pain and misery they endure post-breakup, the greater the sense of relief and joy they experience. From their perspective, initiating the breakup has liberated them, granting them a newfound sense of freedom. They argue that they never truly desire the commitment, placing blame on their significant other for alleged despicable behavior, whether it's a spouse, partner, friend, or boss. They maintain that the relationship was doomed from the outset. Throughout their narrative, they consistently portray themselves as the victim, a misunderstood hero navigating a harsh and unjust world. This distorted storyline is a striking and concerning phenomenon among narcissistic abusers. Within this framework, the narcissist constructs an elaborate and often exaggerated narrative where they emerge as the ultimate hero. In this narrative, they see themselves as exceptionally intelligent, flawless, attractive, and destined for monumental success. They perceive themselves as inherently entitled, powerful, wealthy, and the center of attention. However, as this fantasy increasingly diverges from reality, the delusion grows stronger, gradually overshadowing the abuser's grip on the real world. Over time, if unchallenged, this delusion can become deeply entrenched, blurring the lines between reality and fantasy. Consequently, they may begin to isolate themselves, severing ties with others and displaying symptoms of severe psychological disorders, such as catatonia, schizoid personality disorder, or schizotypal personality disorder. After a breakup, individuals with narcissistic tendencies often exhibit behaviors that are antisocial in nature. They demonstrate traits commonly associated with those who engage in unlawful activities, including a lack of empathy and compassion, poor social skills, and a blatant disregard for ethical and societal standards. Over time, these traits may evolve, transforming them into fully fledged antisocial personalities resembling psychopathy or sociopathy. In this scenario, the narcissist disregards the needs and desires of others, engaging in behaviors that defy both legal and ethical boundaries. They openly flout established laws and ridicule social norms, displaying contempt for institutions that uphold proper conduct. Viewing themselves as victims of circumstances orchestrated by unappreciative and unintelligent individuals, they seek retribution by committing acts that endanger others' well-being, possessions, livelihoods, and safety. From the narcissist's distorted perspective, these actions are justified as a means of avenging perceived wrongs inflicted upon them. This antisocial response to relationship dissolution underscores the skewed worldview of narcissistic individuals and highlights the potential for harm inherent in their behavior. They interpret routine interactions as personal affronts, becoming hypersensitive to their surroundings. Every glance or sound is scrutinized, with suspicions of malicious intent, gossip, privacy breaches, and unauthorized access to their communications. The individual who has endured narcissistic abuse sees themselves as the primary target in a perceived global scheme aimed at discrediting and annihilating them. It firmly believes that concerted efforts are underway to undermine their reputation, seize their belongings, deceive them, strip them of financial resources, limit their physical and mental autonomy, impose others' will upon them, and coerce them into actions contrary to their wishes. This feeling of being besieged leads them to experience intense pressure and a sense of being surrounded, leaving them feeling compelled to compromise their values and principles. In extreme cases, these fears escalate to the point of potential harm or even assassination. In response to these perceived threats, some survivors of narcissistic abuse may attempt to completely detach themselves from society, perceiving the world as hostile and filled with malevolent forces intent on undermining them. It's important to recognize that these perceived threats are projections stemming from the narcissist's inner fears and insecurities. As a result, these individuals may opt to sever social connections, avoiding new relationships, declining romantic entanglements, abstaining from intimate encounters, refraining from social interactions, and cutting off communication through various channels. This withdrawal from society is driven by their distorted perception of reality, rather than social discomfort or shyness. Their minds echo with a persistent narrative. They view the world as cruel and sorrowful, deeming it unworthy of their presence or contributions. This choice to withdraw is not impulsive, but rather a direct result of their paranoid beliefs, functioning as a defense mechanism against the perceived but unreal threats they constantly perceive. This extreme response following a breakup serves as a troubling demonstration of the narcissistic abuser's ability to deceive and isolate themselves, underscoring the profound psychological harm caused by their dangerously distorted perception of reality. Within the sphere of psychological manipulation, a troubling subgroup characterized by persecutory delusions displays aggressive and often explosive behavior. These individuals, commonly known as narcissists, turn to more aggressive tactics to address their perceived issues as a means of coping with internal turmoil. They undergo a transformation, becoming verbally, psychologically, and situationally abusive individuals, with occasional escalation to physical violence in extreme cases. Their unwarranted outbursts typically target those closest to them, loved ones and supporters. In their attempts to diminish and ridicule their targets, narcissistic abusers unleash a barrage of insults, reprimands, and disparaging remarks. Their behavior is marked by blame, judgment, and self-righteous indignation. Their perception of reality becomes distorted and warped, interpreting even harmless comments as intentional attacks aimed at undermining their self-worth. Every action and utterance is construed by them as an attack on their identity. Their distorted viewpoint leads them to perceive the world as inherently adversarial, triggering feelings of intense anger, disgust, dread, and hatred in response. Their behavior mirrors the futile and pitiable spectacle reminiscent of Don Quixote's struggle against windmills. Confronted with life's harsh realities, they engage in erratic behavior, directing their anger towards imaginary adversaries, often causing significant and enduring harm in the process. Sadly, the primary casualties of their actions are typically themselves. Following a breakup, their reactions become notably unpredictable. The termination of a relationship exacerbates their aggressive tendencies, reinforcing their delusions and interpreting the separation as a personal defeat. This heightened aggression stems from viewing the breakup as a betrayal and an attack on their narcissistic identity. Their world morphs into a battlefield where every interaction has the potential to escalate into conflict, and every individual is seen as a potential enemy. Rather than choosing self-isolation, they retreat as a defense mechanism against a perceived hostile environment. Trapped within the confines of their self-constructed reality, they remain caught in a cycle of paranoia and aggression. Narcissistic abusers serve as a stark illustration of the profound psychological harm resulting from a dangerously distorted perception of reality. Their violent actions represent a frantic and ultimately futile attempt to preserve their fragile self-image, driven by persecutory delusions. As we conclude our examination of the psychological aftermath following breakups with narcissistic individuals, we have explored the realms of paranoid aggression, antisocial tendencies, and self-delusion. The self-destructive behaviors exhibited by these individuals are both fascinating and concerning, providing insight into the significant ramifications of navigating through a distorted perception of reality. If you found this analysis engaging, we encourage you to subscribe, like, and share. Your participation motivates us to delve deeper into the intricate aspects of human behavior. We appreciate your openness to accompany us on this compelling, albeit sometimes unsettling, exploration of narcissistic responses to separation, divorce, and abandonment.